They are considered outlaws, rebels whose cause is speed in a sea of mud. These vinyl-toting bandits with high-dollar race cars and driving styles fitting the names emblazoned on the fiberglass have gathered in western Georgia to see who's the baddest of the bunch. Coming up next, it's the top mud racers in the world in a mud-slinging shootout. This is Trucks and Tractor Power, featuring the all-stars of NMRO Mud Racing. Welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power on the Nashville Network. Today we come to you from Franklin, Georgia for the NMRO Deer Creek Nationals. Hi, everybody. I'm Gary Lee alongside Army Armstrong. This facility is only 2 years old, but it's responsible for making this sport very popular in this part of the country.
Well, Gary, as we travel around the country, there are definitely areas that are hotbeds. Like on Sunday night in my part of the country, everybody goes sprint car racing at Hobbside, Indiana. You go drag racing at Union Grove, Wisconsin. But when you're down south on Saturday night, it looks like mud racing seems to be making inroads, and we've got a unique situation here because it is starting to get dark, the air is starting to get real heavy, and the drivers are worried about how they're going to make the horsepower this evening.
It will be cold, so we'll bundle up and come back for all the action after these messages. Darkness has settled over western Georgia. We're at Deer Creek Motorsports Park here in Franklin for the paddle tire competition, the NMRO Deer Creek All-Star Nationals. And Tom Meents will be the first one up in a vehicle that he co-owns with his dad and also Ron Olson. It's a 32 Ford Roadster with a big Keith Black power plant.
You know, Gary, the scenario here is kind of strange. All the drivers hate to see this guy going first in the class because the track is relatively smooth.
Great run.
Whoa, what a
I guess
shot.
it's a great one. A new track record, 2.65.
Almost a new world record. Missed the world record by only 1/100th of a second. Gary Lee, that could be the kiss of death for the rest of this field.
Well, he got a great hole shot, takes it out the end, 2.65. Let's watch again as Tom Meents comes right at you out of Paxton, Illinois, and he has something for them all to shoot for. They're going to knock off the very best here this evening if they hope to win in Franklin, Georgia. Well, Army Tom has to be ecstatic.
Well, it all starts off with an awesome 265 blast. That had to feel good.
Oh, man, the car just went straight as an arrow. Felt good, power all the way, front wheels up. I just can't say enough to thank my dad and Ron Olson for giving me the power and the help as it took.
Get back here and have a good seat because everybody's coming after you now.
Yeah.
Track record at 2.65, but coming up, another member of the 2-second club. The crowd is on hand. They are ready to watch the instant tee of Chad Miller out of Vandalia, Ohio. He has a 509 cubic inch Rodeck power plant in that cute little roadster.
27 Ford Roadster on a relatively smooth track. Let's see what Chad can do. Backpedaled on it, Gary. I wonder why he did that.
3.08. I'm sure he'd like to have that run back again.
Yeah, about the 75-foot mark, he burped the throttle. Watch the rear, watch it settle down. He burps it again. But boy, that cost him. And he still goes to 308.
Well, in most cases, it's a good run, but not quite fast enough when you're going after a track record. And now here is Ennis Thomas, part of a father-son combination in mud racing out of Grovetown, Georgia. And this is Mad Max.
Ennis has been along this sport for a long, long time, around the sport for a long time. He runs under the sponsorship of the Sonny's Engine combination out of Virginia. Now, what Keith Black is to horsepower on the West Coast, Sonny's is on the East Coast.
Let's see how much horsepower he has. 2.93, another member of the 2-second club, but still not quick enough to eclipse the 2.65 that belongs right now to Tom Meents.
Okay, now that's a naturally aspirated engine, meaning it does not run a supercharger, but he does run a nitrous oxide, Gary.
And here is a unique creation. This is Michael Adkins in the Stinger Dragster out of Orlando, Florida.
Last year, this vehicle held the world record for 2-wheel drive. He jumps up to 4-wheel drive. Wow.
Good run at 286.
They're loving the night air down here, aren't they, Gary?
High humidity, moisture in the air, making for more horsepower. But once again, the philosophy for Mike is a bit different. He wants the downforce on the rear end, lifts the front end up. For all intent and purposes, it's a 2-wheel drive vehicle.
Exactly, Gary, and it works.
Coming right at you. Now watch as he picks up speed. The front end lifts up and skates across the mud.
We might be seeing a whole lot more of that in the future because it really seems to be working for him. So now we go back to a good old-fashioned 4x4. They call it the great grandmother, Gary.
Stephon Price, he is the driver out of Meridian, Mississippi. And once again, he gets the front end up in the air a bit and gets across the dirt at 2.97, 297. Now remember that 2-second club. Anytime you can break 3 seconds over 200 feet, you're doing something
Yeah,
right.
that's equivalent in the sport of drag racing of a 4-second run. You know, it's awesome.
Well, let's talk to Stephon Price.
Stephen, a 297 puts you fourth quick, and in this field, that's not bad at all.
I'm pleased with the time. Got a good bite on the starting line. Car drives great. I'd like to thank TCI and the 4-wheel drive center. We got a great car. Have a great time.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
In programs past, we have seen the Mrs. Paula Harbuck. But coming up is the Mr. This is her husband, Jim Harbuck, in Flirtin with Disaster.
It's an interesting family story. They're based out of Oklahoma. He does drive the truck in the scoop class, in the open class with the scoop tires. She drives it in the modified DOT class. But right now, boy, a lot of pressure on him. A 265 is the time he's trying to bump. I'm impressed.
Well, he got up on top of the mud, moved off to his left just a bit at 291. A good run, but still, when the first guy out clocks a track record 265, it's tough to beat.
You know, this could very easily be the quickest field ever gathered in one place in this sport.
The crowd looks on. Let's talk to Jim Harbuck.
One of the interesting stories in motorsports is we actually have a husband and wife combination here. Now, driving tonight, 291, you know, great run.
Well, my wife's going to tell me I shouldn't have let off. I let off just a little bit early. This is the first time I've drove this truck in a year, and it's if you've ever been in one of these, you taste them getting used to, but it done pretty good. I don't know.
That's an interesting point. It looked to me like you shut off about 15 or 20 feet early. How much quicker could you gone if you drove it on through the back door?
Oh, probably another 10th. It'd probably been a 2.8 something, you know.
Why do you drive this class and she drives another class?
Basically, just she's nice to me and she lets me drive her truck. But we're building another truck, and she's gonna drive both the cars in cut class, and I'm gonna drive both of them in the scooper class.
Husband writes in motorsports.
So the wife is going to tell him how to drive. That sound like a backseat driver, Armin?
Hey, it sounds like he's going to listen. He's smart enough to do that.
Rick Kiel coming up next out of Holland, Michigan. This is Destroyer 3, brand new creation.
He's really fattening the motor up to make the horsepower. You talk about the air density, the moisture in the air.
And those flames show up at night. That was beautiful. Pretty run at 283, but still not good enough to beat that 265.
Any other night, any other place in the world, a 283 is awesome. Look at this run. The crowd
Any
is
place
going
else,
crazy.
that would win the competition for you. But not tonight, not quick enough. Let's talk to Rick Kiel.
Rick, a 290-something shot puts you in the number 2 spot.
Oh, that's a pretty good time. It's a little bit off Tom's time, but it's the new clutch and stuff. We're getting a little dialed in, and I didn't shift at that time. I just left it right in low.
How can you stay so calm after taking such a wild ride? Everybody here was holding their breath, and you're just calm as can be.
Well, the car just handles nice, you know. I had a hard time. I couldn't really see where the finish was, and I could tell the front tires were up a little bit higher than what I wanted them, and I wanted to make sure I was going to clip them with the front, and I backed out of it a little bit. I probably should have put the brake on. I always keep thinking I'd like to put the brake on, bring it down just a little bit, and, well, I had to get a little excited in there, too. Everybody does. Has to have fun.
Rick makes a good point. When you carry those front tires, you want to trip the light, but trip the light with the front tires, not the rear tires. Tom Meents' track record continues to lead at 265 over Rick Kiel and Mike Adkins. More coming your way on Trucks and Tractor Power from Franklin, Georgia. Welcome back to Deer Creek Motorsports Park here in Franklin, Georgia. I'm Gary Lee along with Army Armstrong. Army, a cool evening. You have some observations.
Hey, Gary, I made an observation down here at trackside. It's really cooled down. I mean, it's getting flat cold, real heavy air, a lot of moisture in the air and everything, and that spells horsepower to a supercharged engine. If you look at the top of the field, the two guys that are leading this thing are supercharged. They don't rely on the nitrous bottle to make the horsepower. The nitrous with this cool, damp air becomes very inconsistent. The drivers run around the pit area with butane tanks trying to actually heat their nitrous bottles to build up the pressure to get the nitrous to be more consistent. Right now, the old standard supercharged engine is leading the way. Let's see if they can stay on top of this thing.
Well, we have a supercharged engine coming up, a janky power plant in the new breed out of Tyler, Texas. Here is George Gregory, and here is a guy that well could do it here this evening.
You know, after this run, we very well could have 3 supercharged vehicles in the top 3 positions. We were talking about the cool air. He's building a little bit of heat in the engine. He runs alcohol for fuel, so he'll want to get a little bit of heat to make some horsepower.
Excellent run for George Gregory, 2.72.
Gary, in a sport where 3 seconds is the barrier, the 2-second shot is the rule tonight, not the exception. Gregory comes out, he flies as a hobby, and literally he was flying over this clay tonight. Look at this.
Hard to find fault with this run, second quick here this evening. The fans love it. Let's go ahead and talk to George Gregory.
Georgia, 272, you're sitting in the number 2 spot.
Well, we'll get him tomorrow.
You don't seem excited about that. It was an awfully good run.
It wasn't first. Either a hero or zero.
I guess that's one way to look at it. Hero or zero as we take a look at Jeff Briner in the 1990 Chevrolet Muscles.
Runs a big block Chevrolet, relies on the supercharger to make the horsepower. Let's see what he can do. He's trying to make a shot right down the middle.
Oh, he's in trouble about halfway down. Big trouble for Jeff Briner.
Lost the rear end, Gary. See, the front wheel drives only. Tried to drive out. But what that does...
he did trip the light at 549.
What that does is messes the track up bad for everybody behind him.
Yeah, and Jeff Ballard is due up next. He will not like that. And right here you can see where he gets in trouble. Loses the rear drive and just does get far enough down the track to trip the electric eye at 549. Well, as the fans look on and perhaps aspire to drive one of these someday in the future, we take a look at Jeff Ballard out of Mount Sterling, Kentucky, the Pork Brothers Express.
Now, this chassis is an underslung chassis. It's brand new to the sport. Usually everybody wants to get as high off the ground as they can.
Well, he had a rough track to deal with.
He's still having trouble. Yeah.
Not a bad time, though, with that kind of a racetrack. 3.07 as we take another look.
You know, I keep thinking about mud, about the average vehicle sinking in mud. These guys don't sink in mud. They get on top of it.
Well, that's a very low-slung chassis, so he has to get on top of it as the young lady holds her ears and looks on to Mike Fair. Mike Fair and the time traveler out of Mishawaka, Indiana.
This one will be quick. Keep an eye on this kid. He's like an old-time gunslinger.
Oh, look at the horsepower there. Is he out of bounds? I think he tripped. Yeah, disqualified.
Oh, man.
He tripped the light, all right. He went through the light. So he is disqualified for going out of bounds. The time traveler, Mike Fair.
They keep catching those ruts now, and bam, right there at the end. You're exactly right, Gary Lee.
Well, as the officials go back to work, let's go ahead and talk to Mike Fair.
Gary, I believe you got to have a little bit of kamikaze blood in you to drive one of these things. You were pushing a cushion on the right side. You clipped the lights, disqualified, but what does a run like that feel like?
Well, it feels better when you go straight, of course, Army, but I knew it was going pretty good. It was drifting over to the right. I couldn't see exactly where the finish line was, so I just kept my foot in it, and I tagged the lights, I guess, to get disqualified. But you got to stay in it. You know, you let out, you don't win.
Well, now we're going to look at a Chevy Blazer. Garland Walls is due up next as Ron Pense looks on. We'll see him in the competition momentarily. But due up next is Garland Walls in the Gambler.
This is a full-body vehicle, but it's a fiberglass replica of a Blazer you were telling me about earlier, Gary. And light is the name of the game here. He's out of Port Orange, Florida.
530 cubic inches injected nitrous oxide, a ton of horsepower, and a very light vehicle.
With a short wheelbase.
Whoa. Hang on, hang on. He came very close to taking a barrel roll there at 3.01 the time, but his excitement came in the shutout area.
Yeah, you might be charging ticket prices to watch these guys turn them around and head back. Watch this. Left turn, Clyde.
Well, he turns it left, then turns it right.
Let's go back left.
Look like a sprint car out of shape on the back stretch of a dirt track.
Yeah, but they're having fun. That's the name of the game here.
Well, he gets it stopped as the crowd looks on, and let's see what Garland Walls has to say after that run.
Hey, Gary, Garland Walls walks over here and he's giving me this. Yeah, you're kind of shaking now, but when something like that happens, you don't have time to shake. You just got to react.
Greg, try to drive it out of it. You get sliding like that, you slide around. As long as it's sliding, you're okay. If it don't, you got to nail it and try to straighten it on out.
Okay, now, I notice everybody, when they go through the finish line, whether they're straight or crooked, are winging the throttle. What does that do? Straighten the vehicle out and settle it down?
Straighten it out and settle it down, and that way you got a straight shot to, to stop it.
You got the right last name, son. You almost tagged that wall tonight. Way to go.
Thank you.
He gave us a thrill and still manages a smile. We're in the cockpit now with Glenn Seabolt. He is ready for action, but he has to wait his turn because coming up next is Ron Pense. Ron Pense and Tatar.
Ron Pense has found something that everybody's looking for. He tells us it's in the drivetrain. Horsepower's in the engine, the rear end plant's good.
Well, he had to get completely out of the throttle there and then back into it.
Still goes to 318, and I guarantee you that could have been a new world record. Not to be tonight, but he backed the throttle right here, burps it again, and still goes at 18.
Well, he knew he was in trouble. He was headed for the out of bounds line on the right side, out of the throttle, back in the throttle, and here's Ron Pense.
Ron Pense, you were the guy that everybody was looking at tonight. You backpedaled at half track. What caused that?
Well, I got a little bit sideways, got a little bit crossed up there, and ruts are getting pretty rough out there.
The track is getting rough?
Yes, sir.
You're thinking the guys that are sitting on top of this thing might just win it tonight?
I believe they got the best chance, yeah.
Well, let's see if that observation proves to be correct as Glenn Seabolt comes up next in legal speed. This is an old Ford Vicky chassis. Fiberglass, though, modernized just a bit.
Glenn runs this track quite frequently, so somebody can figure these ruts out. It may be a local guy.
Good run.
Yeah,
excellent run at 2.79. I believe that's about third fast. The fans showed their appreciation this late in the competition with this kind of track condition. This is a good run.
That's a real good run, and the guys behind him are tickled to death because he made them a good track to run in themselves.
Well, as the crowd looks on, let's go down and talk to Glenn Seabolt.
You know, on a night that we thought the track was going away, you jump into this thing in the bottom of the field and go at 279, put you in a third place. Can there still be one out there tonight?
There's a possibility, I think.
Think the track is coming back around for you guys?
Well, this old car's working good. It's a fourth time out, but it's working real good.
How did the run feel to you?
I like it. The car, though, this chassis and all, it just hounds real good.
Well, hang in there. You're looking real good yourself.
Thank you now.
We still have two competitors to go, two of the baddest Corvettes in the country. They're chasing after Tom Meents at 265 and Shake Me. Then it's George Gregory, the new breed, and Glenn Seabolt in legal speed. The competition continues here in Franklin, Georgia. Tough enough? We'll find out. Well, with two Corvettes to go right now, the baddest of the bad is Tom Meents, and he's with Army Armstrong.
Well, Tom, you're sitting on top of this thing, a 260-something run. You were first out of the box. What's happening here? Is this a classic case of the track going away?
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with it. The track was real good when I ran, but I had a chance, and I made it down on a good shot on the chance I had.
Okay, let's kick back and see if anybody's got that good run left in them tonight.
Now, two Corvettes are coming up. The first is Neal Smith. He's a good Georgia boy.
Gary, it's a brand new car. Neal's new to the sport. It's a bunch of firsts here. He's taking his time, making sure that the steering wheel's sitting straight. Short wheelbase Corvette. He banged on the throttle a couple of times. 303. Whoa!
He's still banging on the throttle. What was that all about?
I don't know. Got a little bit. Now, we were talking earlier about burping the throttle to get squared away. He's new to the car. Maybe it just reacts a little bit different than anything else he's been driving.
Maybe he got his foot hung up in the toe stirrup on the throttle.
Very good, because when he did wing it, he was just facing towards the crowd.
Yeah, the crowd was getting out of the way down there as well. Now we take a look at the bad age in Woodstock, Georgia. Here is Joe Kinser, another Corvette.
Joe's a guy that kind of keeps to himself. The color black is appropriate for him. He's kind of the mystique of the sport.
Trying to be an intimidator.
Yeah, watch him. I guarantee you, he'll drill you.
And the run is not fast enough at 3:18, which means that Tom Meents, our first competitor with the track record, wins it in Shake Me. George Gregory is second with the new breed, and Glenn Seabolt, legal speed, is third. Here is your winner, Tom Meents with Army Armstrong.
Gary, it's been a tough night of racing tonight, but the guy that ran first had to sit and watch them all night long coming after you. Nobody even got close. Congratulations to you, Tom.
Well, thanks a lot, Army, but it sure was a long time sitting there waiting for them to see if their time was going to hold up.
What goes through your mind at a time like that? Because everybody's watched your run. They know what they've got to do. Who's the pressure on, you or them?
Well, I guess the pressure really would be on them because they've got to do it, and I already did do it.
Well, Gary, that kind of wraps it up from Georgia. These guys are looking tough in this red Georgia clay.
It does indeed wrap it up. Our congratulations to Tom Meents. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week on Trucks and Tractor Power. Now stay tuned for news of an exciting new home video from Diamond P Sports.
Hi, Army. Having fun at the mud races.